Three big winter storms are coming to the United States over the next 7 days, and we are anticipating a ton of snowfall across areas like the Central Plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and even back into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, where as much as 1 foot of snow could fall in a bunch of locations, in addition to the threat for ice accumulation. And we are also watching for the return of severe weather, including the threat of tornadoes. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about these winter storms and why there have been some big changes to the forecast on the winter storm we're going to be seeing Wednesday and Thursday. And starting off with what's happening across the country right now, we do have a huge area of moisture that is streaming from the Pacific Ocean into the central and southern plains. And this is where we're anticipating our first big winter weather event to develop here over the next 24 hours. As all this moisture moves to the east, we are expecting a large winter storm to form back over in the Mid-Atlantic and also back into parts of the Northeast. And then right behind that, we're going to have another winter storm form as we go into Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, and this will be the largest of these two winter storms just over the next 3 or 4 days, where we are anticipating a large area seeing around 4 to 8 inches of snow. In some areas could even see more snow than that. And the National Weather Service has already issued a bunch of winter storm watches, warnings, and as well as winter weather advisories. Winter storm warnings are now in effect across Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, and as well as Delaware, and even into southern New Jersey. The purple boxes are your winter weather advisories, which stretch all the way back through Arkansas and Missouri. This is what we're expecting tomorrow into early Wednesday. And then this over here is our next winter storm that'll start to ramp up tomorrow, but it's really going to be the biggest of an impact on Wednesday across areas in the Central Plains, back into the Midwest, and also into parts of the Great Lakes. And this will eventually move in the direction of the Northeast as we go into late Wednesday night and as well as into early Thursday. Winter weather advisories in effect for parts of Texas and Oklahoma, where some icing will be possible out of this winter storm. Now let's talk more about the timing of these winter storms, and we'll begin with what's happening as we go into tomorrow morning. We are expecting a lot of rain to fall from areas like Texas back into Tennessee, but right here is a heavy but narrow band of snowfall across areas like Missouri, Illinois, back through Kentucky, and also into western Virginia. Eventually, as we get closer to around lunchtime, that snow really picks up in intensity back over in northern Virginia, most of West Virginia, and even parts of southern Ohio. And on the other hand, freezing rain and sleet will be falling back over in some of the higher elevations in the Appalachian Mountains, and also back into southern Virginia, where icing will become a concern, which means that there could be a potential for some very slick roadways out there. So take it slow if you have any travel plans tomorrow. Eventually, as we get closer to 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that heavy snow is moving into areas like Maryland, Delaware, and into southern New Jersey. And keep in mind that this is a very narrow area of snowfall, meaning you might be 20 or 30 miles north of where that heaviest snow is falling, and you might not see a whole lot of snow. So keep in mind the heaviest amount of snowfall is going to be in a very small area. We'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. By around sunset, heavy snow continues across areas like Maryland, back through New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and also West Virginia. And eventually it's moving into extreme southern New England during the overnight hours Tuesday into early Wednesday morning. And we're not going to have to wait long for our next winter storm, because as we go into Wednesday morning, we got a huge area of snow, freezing rain, and sleet happening. And this particular winter storm has been uptrending a ton over the last 24 hours, which is why we're actually making another video today, because we actually have some different numbers we're going to show you in terms of snowfall accumulation. This is what it looks like right around the morning hours on Wednesday, right at about 6 a.m. We are going to be talking about some freezing rain and as well as some snow still happening back over in the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. It's going to be very light, but if any roadways are untreated, there could be some problems there. Heavy snowfall is going to ramp up back over in Kansas, Missouri, and even across parts of Iowa and Nebraska during Wednesday morning, which, by the way, these areas like Iowa and Nebraska have barely seen snow this winter. Many of those areas actually have not seen as much snow as southern Louisiana has seen this winter, which is just crazy to say. Eventually, as we get closer to around 9 to 10 in the morning, that heavy snow continues to usher to the north and east into parts of the Midwest. On the other hand, some freezing rain and sleet will be falling across parts of the Texas Panhandle, central Oklahoma, and also back into southern and southeastern Missouri. It could even reach as far south as the northern parts of Arkansas in the higher elevations. By around lunchtime, heavy snow is moving into northern Missouri, northern Illinois, across the Great Lakes and Wisconsin, and then eventually, as we get closer to sunset, heavy snow is falling in many areas in Illinois, Michigan, and even back into the Northeast. Freezing rain and sleet will be falling very far to the north, all the way back even close to Detroit, into central parts of Indiana, and even in parts of northern Ohio, and as well as western parts of Pennsylvania. And notice how much warm air is going to be lifting to the north. Our freezing line is well to the north, which means we will also also have a threat for severe weather, as we're going to have a pretty strong low-level jet on Wednesday back over in the deep south. Looks like we'll see some damaging winds, perhaps even a couple of tornadoes. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. And then eventually, right around midnight and just after midnight, this continues to move across Michigan and will also start to move into New England. So eventually, as we go into Thursday morning, we can expect some snow and freezing rain and sleet across New England, and including areas like New York, before eventually that all moves out as we go later into Thursday. And before we talk about snowfall accumulation, I do want to mention that there will be another winter storm this weekend as well. We're going to talk more about that here in just a moment. Bear with me, there's a lot of stuff to talk about in this video. We're going to begin with what the first winter storm will drop in terms of snowfall accumulation, and this is for what's happening tomorrow into early Wednesday. We do anticipate a large area across parts of Kentucky, back into Virginia, and even into Delaware and Maryland to pick up at least around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. And for some of the bigger population centers, I do anticipate areas like Louisville, Kentucky to pick up around 2 to 4 inches of snow, Richmond, Virginia, probably around 1 to 3, and then back over in Roanoke, Virginia, we could have as much as 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. In addition to areas like Baltimore, could be as high as 4 to 8 inches of snow out of this as well. Any further north you go, back up into like southeastern Pennsylvania, for example, I think the totals are going to drop off quite a bit. This is what it looks like on a closer view of things. So again, notice how we're going to have a large swath here of around 4 to 8 inches of snow. I would anticipate several locations getting closer to 10 to 12 inches of snowfall. So I would be preparing for the highest end scenario just in case we do end up seeing the highest end scenario in your location. The higher elevations back over in the Appalachian Mountains will easily get close to 8 to 12 inches of snowfall. And back over into southern New Jersey and parts of Maryland, overall, we are anticipating several inches of snow. The current thinking is that areas like Washington, D.C., for example, and southern New Jersey will likely see around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. However, we could have a few locations a bit higher or lower than that. This is, again, one model. If we go to the National Weather Service forecast, it is a bit further to the north. So keep in mind that even the smallest shift tomorrow where the heaviest snow falls could make a major difference to your snowfall accumulation. You could easily see 8 inches of snow. You could easily see 2 inches of snow as well if that heavy band of snow is even a slight bit further down to the south or north. With all of that said, you should be preparing for worst case scenario just in case you do end up seeing upwards of 10 to 12 inches of snow, again, in a few isolated locations. In terms of ice accumulation, we do anticipate a large area from Pennsylvania back into North Carolina to see around a glazing of ice. However, there will be several locations that get as high as a 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. And then back into the Ohio Valley and also back into southern Missouri, we are anticipating ice out of that next winter storm, which we're going to talk more about now. So in terms of snowfall accumulation, this is a rough idea of how much snow we can expect out of this winter storm. We are expecting a swath of snow between 5 to 10 inches across parts of northern Kansas, northern Missouri, northern Illinois, and also back through Michigan. I would anticipate a few locations getting as high as 12 to 13 inches of snow, especially in northeastern Kansas, and we might even see a spot or two throughout parts of Missouri or Illinois. But in general, I do anticipate a large area to see 5 to 10 inches of snowfall out of this winter storm. But don't fear, if you are further to the north or south and you want snow, you actually might see some. Back throughout most of Iowa, we are expecting a large area to pick up at least 2 to 4 inches of snowfall. Now, granted, that could change as we get a little bit closer, depending on how large this winter storm ends up being. But with the latest forecast, it looks like this is going to be a very large winter storm. So I would anticipate around 2 to 4 inches for most of Iowa. The highest amounts will be down to your south, and then also back through parts of northern Oklahoma and even into far southern parts of Missouri. We may see a coating to an inch, but I wouldn't get your hopes up too high as we're not really anticipating a whole lot of snow there. And then northern Indiana and extreme northern Ohio, there will be some snow, but you are going to transition pretty quickly to freezing rain and sleet. So I think overall, most of those areas will only end up seeing a coating to 3 inches of snow. If you're in extreme northwestern Indiana, that's where we could have upwards of 8 inches of snowfall. And on the other hand, the National Blend of Models does have a higher end scenario here for the Central Plains, Midwest, and Michigan. I don't particularly think that we are going to see this much snowfall. However, there is a chance that we continue to see an uptrend when it comes to how heavy the snowfall will be, which could end up leading to some more significant snowfall accumulation, perhaps some areas seeing as much as 8 to 12 inches of snowfall. I'm not ruling out at this point, but again, it's too early to tell whether we are going to see this much snowfall. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to have another video update tomorrow morning, and if there are any major changes to the forecast, we will be the first ones to let you know. And we aren't expecting a full-blown ice storm here anywhere in the southern plains or even back through the Ohio Valley or Midwest. However, there will be enough ice to cause some slick spots on the roadways, especially for all those roads that are untreated, back over in parts of Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle, with up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice being possible. Southern Missouri and also back into northern Indiana and Ohio are in the same boat, where a large area is anticipating anywhere from a glazing up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice. And once this large winter storm moves moves out Wednesday into Thursday. It will eventually clear up as we go into Friday for most of the lower 48, unless you're back over on the West Coast where atmospheric river events are expected over there. What gets a lot more concerning is as we go into Saturday, we are anticipating another large storm system to develop. This will develop further east than the one that we're dealing with as we go into Wednesday in the Central Plains. So areas like the Midwest, back through the Great Lakes and into the Northeast can anticipate the most amount of snow in those areas. Now, if you're back over in the deep south or into the southeast, we are anticipating 1, a lot of rain, and 2, also an elevated risk for severe weather, including the potential for maybe even a couple of strong tornadoes. So Saturday is a day that you're going to want to watch for if you are in the deep south or the southeast. I would anticipate that we're going to be live at least on Wednesday of this week. If not, we'll be live as well on Saturday. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified when we go live for either one of those days. And then eventually, as we go into Sunday, this winter storm is moving offshore and things will be quieter for the majority of next week. So we really just got to get past this week, and then once we're done with this weekend's winter storm, I think we'll enjoy the weather a little bit more here across most of the lower 48. And the severe weather threat this week will begin on Wednesday, where we do have a slight risk for severe weather in the deep south and also a marginal threat that goes across parts of southeast Texas and also into western Georgia, where some damaging winds and a conditional tornado risk will exist. And then once we go into Saturday, we already have a day 6 slight risk of severe weather, which is actually pretty rare to have across areas like the deep south and also through the Dixie Alley, where several areas we're going to be watching for will have the threat for damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes, and a couple of tornadoes could be strong if we get prefrontal convection. Right now, I think Saturday is going to be mostly a line of storms, as in a squall line, and then there could be some prefrontal convection, and any convection that develops out in front of that line of storms will have an elevated threat of even some strong tornadoes. The weather will be busy for the next week or so make sure you are subscribed to the channel for the latest updates. We'll have another video tomorrow morning, and we'll also possibly be live either Wednesday, Saturday, or both, so make sure you click the bell icon down below so you're notified if and when we do go live and for our latest video updates.